Hello guys and welcome back to another round gamer video. This is going to be a event review of the new Crothos that's being released. Apologies for the spelling error which I've just noticed, but we'll carry on with the review as it is. I'll also cover skills of Progenitor and Etauls, titans that have been featured before, just to put perspective of where they are because they are also featured in this event. We do see this being a stretch goal event with the old or the original set Berserker relic Shadow Dancer being featured at 37,000 souls, with 21,000 souls, I believe, is where you can get yourself the new Crothos. There is a new Elysian tattoo or a mark of the Elysian, I think that's what they're calling it, relic also available, which is fairly new. So let's first start off with the breakdown of Crothos, which is probably the third iteration, if I'm not wrong, of this Titan. The last iteration, the one that I have, is the one with Grenadier skills. So now the new Crothos is all about Imperials, and I guess that's how it's supposed to be. The skills look pretty good. Now when you look at the Titan himself, the Titan probably does the most damage you could get from a Berserker, probably from any Ice Titan, I would argue. Probably Aurea, of course, could probably do more, but you've got 360% ice damage, critical. You don't get any AP, but you get health and some extra base health. So he's going to be a very healthy Titan, and I think this is the Titan they were referring to as the one that will benefit from using the Shadow Dancer relic. So yeah, Shadow Dancer. We'll look at the stats as well, which could be a good, although there are a few better ones as well. So you've got, let's look at the skills now for Crothos. What do we get? You get, apart from the Titan skills, the Prestige skill actually gives you a base Imperial damage buff, which is the max you can get from a Prestige skill. And the other unique skill that he offers is that whenever the battle begins and every 25 seconds after that, you're going to get Rage on 4 allied troops. And they say there is no limit to this. So what that means is it's almost very similar to what Eros does. Eros does an auto rage. I think Eros does every 20 seconds, if I'm not wrong. So Crothos does something very similar, but for Imperials. So, but it says for allied troops doesn't mean it's going to be Imperials. No matter what troop you take with Crothos, you're going to get that happen. There's no limit. But of course, because it happens at the start and every 25 seconds, you're limited by the duration of the battle itself. So for a 5-minute battle, you're probably looking at about a little bit more than 10, maybe 10 or 11, something like that, rages. But the reason this skill could be very good is the fact that rage has a splash effect. So if your Imperials are all clumped together, which is normally how I find myself using the Imperials, you can basically rely on all your Imperials having rage every other time. So your Imperials are going to be super angry all the time, doing a lot more damage each time they hit. Now let's look at the Imperial skills itself then. But what do you get? You get X health, X armor, but you also get melee and range resist at 40%, which is a very good number to get, in probably in the high echelons of what you can expect from an Ice Titan. You get the most damage you can get from an Imperials in the game. I have checked a few of the Titans, and I do believe this new Crothos actually deals out the most damage for Imperials. And the great thing as well, you do get X AP and critical, whereas normally you don't get all of them in one set. In fact, the skills of Imperials are so good, in my opinion, that it actually completely trumps Atlas. And honestly, if you are considering going for this Titan, the Atlas you're gonna have is gonna be prestige food or food for the Titans, because he does everything that Atlas does and more. Let's talk about the special skills. Now, this is, I guess, we call it invoke skill, but I don't know what it is. But here's the skill. Every time your Crothos does a critical damage, notice that Crothos actually comes with 44% critical skill, so there is a good chance that he will crit even without you buffing any skills to do with him. But if you critical, there's a half chance. So every second time you can say that he does a crit, um, he will cast one freeze to any enemy that's near Crothos. So let's say your Crothos is in the midst of battle, he's kind of, smashing a few troops here and there. If he does a critical, then he'll freeze one of those enemies around him. Also, freeze is a splash effect spell as well, which means is that if there are multiple enemies within that small radius that freeze spell has, they will get frozen as well. And in addition to that, it will also rage Crothos himself and 3 allied troops. Now, this happens a maximum of 12 times, and honestly, I don't really see this being utilized fully because even though Crothos is really healthy, he's got a lot of health. If and he's also got armor, and he's got some melee resist, he can stand. But if you can't have him survive for 12 hits, well, for enough times that he can actually at least do, let's say 24 times he does this crits, because come on, you're not going to really be buffing the critical skills, isn't it? So let's say it's gonna need 24 crit hits for that to happen. And so that's going to be a while before that happens. But if you can get this to occur, I think this is a fantastic skill, and getting rages, and also notice there is already a rage coming in from the prestige skill if you manage to prestige it up. Now these skills that I show for the prestige are at level 10, but if probably at level 1 you could be looking at maybe 2 allied troops getting a raid spell, but honestly it doesn't really matter because raid skill has a range effect. But of course, I think where the difference would be at prestige level 1, I think the base imperial damage will probably start at 60%, and I think the instead of so it wouldn't be every 25 seconds the second effect, but probably be every every 40 seconds. I think it might start off with at level 1. But Crothos is definitely, and I think from what I've seen the skill so far, I think he's a very good contender to be probably the best Titan to prestige up in today's meta. Not only does he bring X health, X armor with melee and range resist, but he also brings in the maximum possible damage in the game. Now, where he does fall short is the fact that his Imperials have no elemental resist. So what that means is that if you're going up against, let's say, in Hachiman, if you take this against Hachiman, you will definitely need a frost shield with the earth resist 40% plus elemental grasp. So what that means is you will be consuming a fair few relic slots to buff up that resistance. But because he has 40% melee, there is a good there isn't necessarily need to max out your elemental resist to the element attacking. So remember, because there's a lack of elemental resist, I wouldn't consider Crothos as a good defender, but definitely one of the top attackers. And I think as we should see some videos coming out, I wouldn't be surprised to see Crothos taking out Archimans. Now, where he will probably struggle will be taking in range damage. Now, although you get 40% range resist, uh, it's going to be hard for you to kind of cover, let's say, fire or cover physical. But there are some relics which I shall discuss, which are not necessarily in this event, that can help you with that. So let's stick onto that. So yeah, Crothos overall great attacker, and in my opinion has potential, but not a guarantee of taking out Hachiman. The main problem with against Hachiman being the archers, because if you can't dodge the archers, if you can't get to the archers, then you can have a real problem. All right, so Progenitor, just to kind of put in context where he stands, is a nice guardian, is a guardian titan. I'm not going to talk about the Titan skills himself, but let's look at what you get as Imperials go. You get X health, X armor similar, but you get a slightly lower melee and melee resist, but a higher range resist. So a Progenitor will do much better job when it comes to handling ranged attacks. So there's that, but he does a little bit worse than sort of Crothos. So that's that. But do note what he brings in, which Crothos doesn't, is an all element resist. In fact, you get 80% earth and water resist only if the skill was present in some form on Crothos. If Crothos came in with, let's say, Earth and physical resist, I think it would be fantastic and probably one that probably a lot of people will use to take down Hachimans. And also what Progenitor does, which Crothos doesn't do, is bring in Omega Imperials, which is very, very useful because you can drop them anywhere in the battlefield. But as far as special skills, he has 4 free skills. Some interesting thing on the prestige skill: when he dies, he kind of freezes 6 enemies, and every time he loses health, 10% health. So basically, you can freeze up to 10 enemies as he slowly dies, and you get 60-70% base Imperial health, which is great. So yeah, so if you prestige it all up, Progenitor will probably will have more health for the Imperials than what Crothos will have, but Crothos will not pack any punch when it comes to damage. So yeah, do note that. Atlas, it's probably not even worth discussing at this moment because if you just look at what his skills are, and now there's a roll of a dice thing in this. You get tier 2 offensive skill, tier 3 offensive skill, and tier X offensive skill. Now, if you want to, let's say you want to look at what maximum damage you can throw out of that list, you can throw out about 180 plus 162, which is 342, which is still lower than what you get with Crothos. So he's not going to put on as much damage. You can at the most get 88% AP. Well, you don't want to get a roll with all APs in it, and the critical can be at 44 or 36. So Atlas is really not going to cut it to this level. Even his prestige skill is doing very little. Yeah, you get some base health and damage, but if you compare him directly with Crothos, Crothos does 90% base Imperial damage. Yes, you don't get the health benefit, but Atlas doesn't give any X health. It gives X health for the Imperials, but that's not going to be super useful. So I would consider Atlas almost outdated in comes to Crothos. So yeah, that's pretty sad to say. But anyway, let's now talk about the event rewards. 25,000 souls event. There's a 5,000 stretch rewards to get yourself the Shadow Dancer if you wish. But I would personally see this event only as a 25,000 souls, and if you want to get one of those relics, go for it. Event will start on Thursday, 27th of August. 1.4 from Ares, Progenitor, and Crothos. If you are currently working on leveling up your Ares, maybe in the Titans Unleashed event, the Fusion event, you might want to hold off not maxing them out and max them out while you grind with this event. Other than that, you can use your old Crothos or your Progenitor if you have this to go for this, or you're left with 1.2 for any 4-star Ice Titan and 1.1 for any 3-star Ice Titans. Boost Relic East Version Candles. Noticeable rewards here: 9,000 souls gets you Atlas, 16,000 souls get you Progenitor, and 21,000 souls gets you the new shiny Crothos. There's a couple of interesting relics which we shall look at. But as far as stretch goals go, if you are thinking about getting yourself a Shadow Dancer, maybe you want to have this. It's one of the undesired relics, to be honest, in the game. But if you think it could be useful, then this is your chance to pick this up for going 5,000 souls beyond the finishing mark in the event. The Alliance rewards get you level 40, so there isn't any level 60 Titan as we saw in the Ares event. You can pick up Progenitor at 51 to 100. So if you're not, let's say you want Progenitor maybe for collection, or otherwise you do like him, he's a good Titan on his own. Then you might want to get yourself into an alliance which is targeting 9,000 souls or less. That way you can get yourself an Atlas and Progenitor for a smaller soul count. So there is that. Let's look at the relics. Mark of Elythian is the new relic. All the other ones are already have been featured before. This relic gives you 50% buff for your Crothos or any other Titan, along with the Imperials, and you get one very good skill with this, which isn't there in many other relics, which is 40% rage duration. And I really hope this isn't a mistake and this is a fact. If it is really a rage and not freeze duration buff for the Mark of Elythian, that is a fantastic relic, and in fact one that could go on to many other Titans and not just this, thankfully, because the first slot is 50% Titan and Troop rather than just Troop Ice damage, making equipable on a lot other sort of Titans. Staff of Ice gives you the freeze duration and freeze radius, uh, which is an okay relic. I don't have this one, not super amped to get it. Frozen Crown and Frozen Daggers, really good relic. I do really like the Frozen Crown. I use it on my toe tech a lot to take on Pixies. You get Imperial Health and resistance to physical. The Frozen Daggers gives you Imperial's armor piercing and 45% true ice and damage, not 50%. Wish it was 50, but that is probably the most Imperial's armor piercing you can get off a relic. So decent relic for 2 relic slots. Now, what I've also shown here are the 3 current 5-star Berserker relics, just to have a quick comparison between their stats. Now, Shadow Dance, where it shines is the fact that you get maxed out range resist for your Crothos. So if you think about again, if you want to think about how you could use this, I really don't know whether that's super useful for Crothos, because this new Crothos doesn't bring any ranged damage himself. So if you are considering using Crothos as a blocker, I don't really see how useful that is, because Imperials are all melee units, so I don't know. But maybe the argument could be that using this relic is maybe your Crothos is the one that takes out the archers. So yeah, that's something. Other than that, I think the really good relic for this particular Titan is either for Seti's Axis or Axis of War. Axis of War obviously does 65% troop damage, but for Seti's Axis does a little bit more at 70%, and also grants your troops some additional armor piercing. Now, why this might be useful is because it's 2 times an attack. You can be 80%. You probably notice that Crothos comes with 88% armor piercing, and there's a recent change that we're going to see where we're going to get, I believe, 40% troop armor piercing by default on your Imperials. So if you add 40 to 88, you're looking at 128. So, which is not enough to take down Hachimans. Yes, you get with relics, you can probably get it to 200. But if you want to push this to the 300 territory, I think Forseti's Axis might be the one to go for. But Axis of War, what it does, which Forset Axis doesn't, is that you get critical for all your troops. Now you do start off with 44% critical for Imperials and Crothos. Add 35 to that, and you're looking at 79% critical. With probably just with the Frost Spears, you are looking at near 100% critical. So Axis of War might get the edge on that, and also because you get all troop resist against range damage, and Crothos has let's look at it. I think it's 40% range resistance. So if you add 50 to that, you're looking at 90% range resistance for Imperials, which would be very useful to take in some of those hits from archers or any other ranged unit. So yeah, I think overall, I think Axis of War probably still gets the edge overall here, because you can't. It's harder to get range resist than it's to get Imperial's armor piercing. Just my thoughts on that, but I'll let you guys decide. The other relics available in this event are Spartan Helm and Frozen Rune. The other ones are and Ice Hammer. Frost Bow and Frost Spears are not available, but I decided to include it here because these form probably an essential part of many of the builds. At least they do for me when it comes to Totec, and in fact when I even use Atlas. So I think they will find their place on Crothos as well. You know, if you're looking for getting armor piercing, definitely Ice Hammer and Frost Spear will probably play a part. Other than that, Spartan Helm probably is featured a lot, but I think Spartan Helm is a very good relic. If you are looking at taking your Crothos, let's say, against a frost-based, an ice poison-based Titan or an lightning Titan, but do take that with a pinch of salt. That no matter what you do, and this is from experience, and a lot of players will tell you that no matter what you do, your Imperials will completely get decimated from lightning storms and lightning. So, but where this Titan relic is useful is the fact that you get 40% Imperial health and 40% poison resist, which is probably why you would want this. So, overall good relic. A couple of the relics which are not in this event, but you might want to consider. I think Chilling While is there. Let's have a look if Chilling While is in there. I might have missed it actually. Yeah, Chilling While is at 20,000 souls. I should have highlighted that. So it is available. And you get Imperial's resistance against all elements, only at 16%. Wish it was more, but you get Imperial's health. Other relics which might be of interest is the Frost Charms. Again, if you're trying to look at, if you are looking at using Shadow Dancer, maybe in one of those builds where you want to amp up Crothos' health, and maybe he is the one that is responsible for taking out all of the non-Goliath units, then Frost Charms might find a space. Frostbow might be useful for if you wanted to set up your Crothos on defense, although I wouldn't really want it, but other than that, it's got little use. But Banner of Frost could be useful. You can get some more armor for your Imperials, and you can get some damage. So nice relic. And the other relic which I thought of mentioning here is the Orb of Justice, and that's mainly because you get resistance to physical and some damage. So could be a useful one to equip on your Crothos if you're trying to take down Hachimans. Just something to throw out of there. Now there are some balancing updates, and as I mentioned before, at troop level 1 you start at 1%. You're going to get 1% armor piercing. By default, Elysians have no critical and no armor piercing, so this is a good change. And you also get a Imperial's health base health buff at 25% across all levels. Now this is a bit underwhelming in my opinion. I think um, I wasn't too upset with the base damage, the offensive stats, but I think more could have been done to buff up the health. I don't know if 25% is going to be enough for the health, but it's still a good change in the positive direction. And this changes should come in effect tomorrow, 25th of August. So yeah, so we should have to wait till the next update. This shall happen pretty much instantaneously. Now, one Titan which I wanted to show here, which is not mentioned here, but is worth putting in perspective, is the other Ice Berserker, which is also got X skill for Imperials, is Jotunn, and we might actually see him in the Christmas event, as we always almost see him. He actually is interesting enough if you think about Crothos. Crothos does 360% Imperial's damage. Now, if you ask yourself which is the Titan then that puts out the maximum damage, you might be surprised to know that in principle, at max prestige level, Jotunn actually could take that place because Jotunn has, if you look at his skill, prestige skill, it's got 25% Imperial damage, and that goes up and every 2 units, and this can happen 8 times if you kill 16 units, you can get 25 times 8, which is what, 8 was 16, 200% buff. So 200 plus 180 is 380, and add to that you're gonna get 40% as well, so 420% Imperial buff, plus you get the 90% base Imperial damage buff. So if you compare this with with our Crothos, you will actually find that Jotunn comes up on the top, but where Crothos shines definitely above Jotunn is the fact that he has X health and X armor. So I think overall Crothos still wins that mantle of being the best Ice Titan, I think, in the game, with probably Totek being the other one contender. Finally, I leave you with the look at next week. You got Conquest starting on 1st of September. Spellcraft is not really an event, but if you consider that as an event, there's that. But Conquest will see Minotaur, which is the physical Titan that has Omega Spearman. Uh, Probably going to be a collector's, but of course, Conquest is great for leveling up your relics, especially with the recent change where they got rid of the 1-star relics in Conquest drops. So it'll be a really good relic event. And Alliance War Eros. So Eros is the other one that has auto rage abilities, which is a physical ranger. So considering getting him that, he also has Omega Omega Goliaths, so 4 Omega Goliaths. So that's another event that's featuring very soon after, which is on the 3rd of September. Alright guys, I think that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this sort of coverage of Progenitor, New Crothos and Atlas. If you do like this sort of content, do let me know. Yeah, that's it for this video. I'll catch you all in another video.